what's going on, but fix it. And Dame was on some, all right, I'm on it. Don't worry. By the time you get home, gonna be right.
And he didn't do it.
Jay got home and stood 10 toes down on it.
And he
jackhammered.
And he never corrected it.
No.
That's okay.
So that's what did it, bro. It drove the knife. In my opinion, it split up a family. We had a family of Harlem and Brooklyn together.
Yes.
And because stood 10 toes on that, it separated our family.
You're right.
Yo, the walls of hip-hop just shook again. Memphis Bleek is stepping up and dropping truths that no one saw coming. He's spilling the details behind why Jay-Z, the mogul, the Rockefeller architect, cut ties with Cameron and Dame Dash, and trust me, the story hits harder than a bass line in a Brooklyn club. Fans thought they knew the Rock saga, the power plays, and the legendary feud dynamics, but now we're getting the insider perspective straight from someone who lived it. Imagine being in the room while decisions are made that shift the entire culture. That's where Memphis Bleek was, seeing Jay-Z maneuver, strategize, and make moves that would send shockwaves through every corner of the rap game. Cameron and Dame Dash? Icons in their own right, yet caught in the whirlwind of ambition, loyalty, and betrayal. Bleek's revelations aren't just gossip, they're a roadmap of the politics, the power struggles, and the behind-the-scenes chess that shaped the careers of some of hip-hop's most influential figures. This isn't just history. It's drama, it's tension, it's raw honesty that cuts deep. Fans, artists, and the streets alike are buzzing, debating every word. The truth is finally out, and it's hotter than ever. Memphis Bleek exposes the decisions, the conflicts, and the fallout, leaving no room for mystery. Now everyone is asking, what really went down, and how did Jay-Z's moves redefine the game forever? Stay tuned, because this story is shaking the foundation of rap as we know it. Yo, the walls of hip-hop just shook again. Memphis Bleek is stepping up and dropping truths that no one saw coming. He's spilling the details behind why Jay-Z, the mogul, the Rockefeller architect, cut ties with Cameron and Dame Dash, and trust me, the story hits harder than a bass line in a Brooklyn club. Fans thought they knew the Rock saga, the power plays, and the legendary feud dynamics, but now we're getting the insider perspective straight from someone who lived it. Picture it, the golden era of Rockefeller, the energy, the ambition, the rise of some of the biggest names in hip-hop. Cameron was young, hungry, and carving his lane in the rap game, while Dame Dash was running the business side like a general, ambitious, bold, unafraid. And then there's Jay-Z, a visionary with an instinct for power, influence, and legacy. Everyone respected his mind, but few understood the calculations behind the decisions that would later shake hip-hop history. Now Memphis Bleek steps forward and gives us a front-row seat to that drama. He witnessed boardroom conversations, studio clashes, and private talks that the public never saw. He's talking about the tension between loyalty and ambition, friendship and business, dreams and reality. This isn't just a story of artists falling out. It's a story of power, strategy, and the consequences of making moves that affect not just careers, but legacies. Cameron and Dame Dash weren't just collaborators, they were pillars of Rockefeller. Their creative vision and business hustle helped build a label that changed the game. But ambition can clash, egos collide, and what once was a tight-knit family can turn into a battlefield. Memphis Bleek describes how subtle disagreements turned into major splits, how loyalty was tested, and how decisions were made that nobody outside the inner circle could understand. And here's where it gets even juicier. Jay-Z, known for his calm, calculated persona, made moves that seemed shocking at the time but, in hindsight, revealed a strategic mind that was always 3 steps ahead. Memphis Bleek explains how Cameron's outspoken nature, combined with Dame Dash's larger-than-life personality, created friction. It wasn't just about music, it was about control, influence, and the direction of a brand that was bigger than any one person. Fans are left questioning, why now? Why did Bleek reveal this? The answer lies in perspective. When you've lived in the middle of the empire, seen the wins, the losses, and the maneuvers, silence eventually becomes harder than speaking. Bleek's revelation isn't meant to start beef, it's meant to tell the truth behind one of hip-hop's most notorious splits. The streets and the internet went wild when this news dropped. Social media exploded, threads were dissected, and fans debated every single detail. How could Jay-Z cut off two of his closest collaborators? What role did loyalty play? And how much of this was business versus personal? Memphis Bleek's insight gives context that no tweet or headline could ever fully capture. In hip-hop, legacy matters. Jay-Z built an empire that combined talent, strategy, and foresight. Cameron and Dame Dash were part of that rise, but every empire has its politics. Bleek reveals how decisions were made, how personalities clashed, and how even strong bonds can fracture under pressure. This isn't gossip, it's history, it's strategy, and it's the inside story that hardcore fans have been waiting years to hear. And the intensity doesn't stop there. According to Bleek, some moments in the studio were electric, tense, even dangerous. Conversations that seemed casual on the surface hid layers of conflict, ambition, and power plays. Jay-Z's choices weren't impulsive, they were calculated, and they left a lasting mark on everyone involved. Cameron and Dame Dash, despite their talent and influence, had to navigate the consequences of those decisions. By sharing this, Memphis Bleek isn't just recounting events, he's giving fans a blueprint of how hip-hop business operates at the highest level. It's about understanding loyalty, vision, and timing. And more importantly, it's about showing that even the biggest names in the game have conflicts, strategies, and choices that the public rarely sees. This story is a reminder. Hip-hop isn't just music. It's business, it's relationships, it's strategy, and it's legacy. And when Memphis Bleek steps into the light to tell the full story, the culture listens. This story gets even deeper because Memphis Bleek isn't just talking about surface-level disagreements. He's exposing the undercurrents that ran through Rockefeller during its golden era. We're talking about the tension between loyalty and ambition, the subtle power moves that shaped careers, and the personal dynamics that the public never witnessed. Jay-Z, Cameron, and Dame Dash weren't just business partners, they were part of a family built around creativity, hustle, and empire building. But as Bleek explains, even the strongest families face fractures when vision, ego, and opportunity collide. Cameron, with his bold personality and streetwise intuition, was carving out his lane while still respecting the hierarchy. Dame Dash, fiery and unfiltered, managed the label's operations like a general, demanding, strategic, and protective of his people. And Jay-Z? Calculated, always 3 steps ahead, analyzing every move not just for today, but for long-term legacy. Memphis Bleek's revelations show that it wasn't a single moment that caused the split, but a series of calculated decisions, clashes of personality, and differing visions for what Rockefeller should become. Fans watching from the sidelines might have assumed this was a simple fallout, but Bleek paints a much more complex picture. He describes private conversations, late-night studio sessions, and boardroom tensions that turned ordinary disagreements into seismic events. Loyalty was tested constantly: who spoke out, who stayed silent, who pushed boundaries, and who respected the chain of command. The dynamic wasn't personal in the petty sense, it was strategic. Every decision carried consequences, every word could shift the balance of influence. And it wasn't just about Jay-Z asserting authority, it was about survival in a cutthroat industry. Hip-hop had evolved, and the stakes were higher than ever. Bleek recounts moments where Cameron's outspoken nature, combined with Dame Dash's brash approach, clashed with Jay-Z's vision of long-term sustainability. Tensions weren't hidden, they simmered beneath the surface, affecting music, business, and personal relationships alike. Every studio session became an arena for negotiation, compromise, and occasionally confrontation. The fallout from these splits changed the trajectory of everyone involved. Cameron, once deeply embedded in the Rockefeller machine, had to pivot, building his independent legacy while still honoring the connections that shaped him. Dame Dash, who had been a key architect of the brand, faced both professional and personal consequences, navigating the aftermath of decisions he didn't fully control. And Jay-Z? He solidified his empire, proving that even when loyalty is tested, strategy and foresight ultimately determine who thrives. Memphis Bleek's perspective is invaluable because he lived it. He saw the immediate impact of every decision, the shockwaves that reverberated through the streets, the studios, and the culture at large. His account isn't just about gossip, it's a blueprint for understanding how business, artistry, and personal dynamics intersect in hip-hop. The lessons are clear. Ambition without alignment can fracture even the strongest teams, and vision without loyalty can breed resentment. Fans reacted instantly to these revelations. Social media exploded with debates about who was right, who was wrong, and who should have acted differently. Comment sections became battlefields, with die-hard Cameron supporters defending his artistry, Dame Dash fans praising his business acumen, and Jay-Z loyalists pointing to his unmatched track record. The discussion wasn't just about the past, it was about understanding the mechanics of power in hip-hop and how legends are made or tested. Bleek also reveals the subtle ways Jay-Z protected the brand while managing egos. He describes moments where decisions appeared harsh or abrupt, but were ultimately strategic, designed to preserve Rockefeller's long-term influence. Fans often see only the public drama, the headlines, the diss tracks, the feuds, but rarely the quiet, calculated moves that determine legacy. That's what makes this story so compelling. It exposes the hidden strategies behind iconic moments in rap history. And the tension wasn't limited to boardrooms or studios. It seeped into relationships, collaborations, and creative processes. Bleek recounts instances where trust was tested, where artists had to choose between loyalty to friends and alignment with a vision. Those choices defined careers. They determined who would rise, who would pivot, and who would face setbacks. Hip-hop, after all, is as much about relationships as it is about talent. Memphis Bleek's account shows how fragile those relationships can be when ambition and vision collide. There's also the cultural impact. Jay-Z, Cameron, and Dame Dash were more than individuals, they were symbols of a movement. Rockefeller represented innovation, independence, and authenticity. When fractures occurred, fans weren't just watching a label split, they were witnessing the evolution of a culture. Bleek contextualizes this, showing how these personal and professional dynamics shaped hip-hop's narrative and influenced future generations of artists. What makes Bleek's revelations particularly shocking is the depth of insight he provides into motives. He explains not only what happened, but why, the mindset, the strategy, and the foresight that drove decisions. Fans gain a rare glimpse into the delicate balance between friendship, business, and artistry, and how one misstep or misalignment can cascade into major consequences. Ultimately, this isn't just a story of tension or conflict. It's a story of growth, evolution, and resilience. Cameron learned to navigate independence while maintaining relevance. Dame Dash confronted the limits of influence in a changing industry. Jay-Z demonstrated the power of foresight and strategic thinking. And Memphis Bleek, as the insider observer, offers the narrative that connects all these dots, giving fans a holistic view of one of hip-hop's most legendary sagas. This chapter of hip-hop history is both cautionary and enlightening. It shows that behind the music, behind the headlines, there are real decisions, real conflicts, and real consequences. The story is alive, still resonating in the culture, and Memphis Bleek's revelations ensure that it won't be forgotten. This chapter of hip-hop history is both cautionary and enlightening. It shows that behind the music, behind the headlines, there are real decisions, real conflicts, and real consequences. The story is alive, still resonating in the culture, and Memphis Bleek's revelations ensure that it won't be forgotten. But now, let's take it further. Because the aftermath of Jay-Z cutting ties with Cameron and Dame Dash didn't just change careers, it shifted the entire hip-hop landscape. Streets, studios, radio waves, and social media feeds were buzzing with speculation. Fans dissected every lyric, every interview, every Instagram post. Headlines ran wild. Jay-Z versus Cameron, Dame Dash exposed, inside the Rockefeller fallout. But what really happened behind closed doors? Memphis Bleek pulls back the curtain. He talks about loyalty tested in ways most fans will never understand. Boardrooms that felt like battlefields. Studio sessions charged with tension. Every word, every move scrutinized. Cameron's sharp tongue, Dame Dash's fiery personality, and Jay-Z's calculated vision created a perfect storm. One wrong move could have ended careers. One smart move could redefine legacies. And the stakes weren't just money or fame. They were influence, credibility, and power in a culture that rewards ambition but punishes missteps. Memphis Bleek also dives into the personal side of the fallout. He explains how friendships were strained, trust fractured, and alliances questioned. When you spend years building an empire together, breaking that bond isn't easy. It leaves emotional scars, and those scars shape the music, the art, and the stories that hip-hop fans cherish for decades. Fans now see not just the headlines, but the human side of the industry, the ambition, ego, pride, and heartbreak. Then there's the strategic angle. Jay-Z's moves weren't impulsive, they were carefully calculated. Memphis Bleek emphasizes that Jay-Z understood the importance of timing, influence, and positioning. Cutting ties with Cameron and Dame Dash wasn't about spite, it was about survival and long-term vision. Every empire requires decisions that look harsh on the surface, but make sense in hindsight. And while some fans criticized him, the results speak for themselves. Jay-Z's empire thrived, cementing his status as one of the most influential figures in music history. Meanwhile, Cameron and Dame Dash faced crossroads. Cameron had to pivot, asserting his independence while maintaining relevance. He channeled his energy into a solo career, collaborations, and ventures that would later prove him as a creative force in his own right. Dame Dash, always larger than life, had to navigate the industry without the safety net of Rockefeller. Both learned that even legends must adapt when alliances shift. Memphis Bleek's insight gives fans a front-row seat to that evolution. The ripple effects weren't limited to the three primary players. The entire Rockefeller roster felt the tremors. Associates, collaborators, and even fans had to rethink loyalties, expectations, and possibilities. Memphis Bleek emphasizes that in the music business, one fracture can have widespread consequences, affecting careers, partnerships, and cultural perception. It's a reminder that behind every hit song, there's a complex network of relationships and strategic decisions. Social media intensified the drama. Fans and critics alike flooded Twitter, Instagram, and forums with hot takes, debates, and speculation. Every post from Jay-Z, Cameron, or Dame Dash was analyzed for hidden meaning. Was it a subtle diss? A reconciliation? Or just standard promotion? Bleek's revelations gave clarity, showing that while the public sees only fragments, the full story involves calculated moves, personalities clashing, and strategy guiding every decision. And let's not forget the cultural impact. Rockefeller wasn't just a label, it was a movement. It represented ambition, independence, and the spirit of an era. By cutting ties with Cameron and Dame Dash, Jay-Z sent a message about priorities, vision, and legacy. Memphis Bleek shows that these decisions didn't just affect careers, they influenced the trajectory of hip-hop itself, shaping how future artists approach loyalty, business, and collaboration. Throughout all of this, Bleek positions himself as both a witness and a storyteller. He conveys not just facts, but the atmosphere, the tension, the anticipation, and the emotional weight of each decision. Fans gain insight into the pressures of working at the top of the industry, the high stakes of fame and power, and the delicate balance between personal relationships and business priorities. He also makes it clear, this isn't about drama for clicks. It's about understanding the dynamics that drive hip-hop. Loyalty, ambition, ego, and strategy all collide in ways that can define careers, reshape legacies, and influence the entire culture. The lessons are clear. Stay aware of the long game, respect the hierarchy, and never underestimate the power of strategic thinking. By the end of Bleek's revelations, one thing is certain, hip-hop is as much about business and strategy as it is about music. The story of Jay-Z, Cameron, and Dame Dash serves as both a cautionary tale and a blueprint for future artists navigating loyalty, ambition, and legacy. Memphis Bleek's insider perspective cements this chapter as one of the most compelling narratives in rap history, a story of power, vision, and consequences that fans will talk about for decades. Yo, now it's your turn. Memphis Bleek just exposed the inside story behind Jay-Z cutting ties with Cameron and Dame Dash, and the culture is shook. But we want to hear from you. Do you think Jay-Z made the right move, or did Cameron and Dame Dash get treated unfairly? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. We're reading every single one. If you're here for real hip-hop tea, behind-the-scenes stories, and breakdowns you won't find anywhere else, hit that like button and subscribe to stay locked in. Don't just watch the drama, be part of the discussion, because moments like this define eras in hip-hop. Turn on notifications so you don't miss Part 4 updates, exclusive takes, or any surprise drops. If someone goes live, posts a cryptic snippet, or drops a track, you'll be the first to know. This story isn't over. The fallout, reactions, and legacy lessons are still unfolding. Share this video with your crew and start the debate everywhere. Who's really in the right? Who came out stronger? And who's going to shake the culture next? This isn't just gossip. This is history in the making, and you can witness it from the front row. Remember, in hip-hop, knowledge is power and discussion fuels the culture. Stay engaged, stay informed, and stay ahead of the headlines. The next move could change everything.